Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your hostess, femininity coach, and author of the Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So I ran up on this clip and I thought it was real interesting because this chick been on this Pop the Balloon show before. She was one of the ones that was actually arguing with that Aaron the plumber boy. And she's been on here a couple of times, seen her on a couple of times, and she's on here. I ain't never seen her walk away with nobody. But then again, I don't really watch the show. I just see the clips. But in any case, she's very argumentative. She's very combative, right? And you can see why. She's a young lady. She's not a bad looking lady, but you can see why she don't have a man. Even though she appears to be looking for one, she can't tolerate it. The men can't tolerate her because of the way in which she behaves and how she talks. But she met her match when she got shut down real smooth by an intelligent young man who was on here that basically read her for filth, and then she got mad for being read for filth. So we just gonna let it happen. It's actually real quick. I might let it run twice so you can catch what's being said.
She called him a red flag, but his response flipped everything.
You're 38? Yeah. Red flag.
It's less about being a red flag and more about being a liability. If I were to bring you into my life, you would be a liability. You can't teach me anything. You can't help me with my finances in any way. You can't add any intellectual anything into my life. And if you're not already on that path,
I'm already on it. That's the problem. You don't know enough about me.
You're absolutely right. I don't know enough about you. You said you've had Airbnb properties.
Good luck with the other girls back there. You're messing up.
I can tell that you're triggered, and that's okay.
I'm not triggered, sweetheart.
And this is why your immaturity will prevent you from being with a real man. Next contestant, please.
She called him a red flag, but his response flipped everything.
You're 38? Yeah. Red flag.
It's less about being a red flag and more about being a liability. If I were to bring you into my life, you would be a liability. You can't teach me anything. You can't help me with my finances in any way. You can't add any intellectual anything into my life. And if you're not already on that path,
I'm already on it. That's the problem. You don't know enough about me.
You're absolutely right. I don't know enough about you. You said you've had Airbnb properties.
Good luck with the other girls back there. You're messing up.
I can tell that you're triggered, and that's okay.
I'm not triggered, sweetheart.
And this is why your immaturity will prevent you from being with a real man. Next contestant, please.
And so her responses, the way that she even handled that, the way that she even attempted to, he's 38, it's a red flag. Like, what does that even mean? Because he's single, or because, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. So he's single, hitting on 40, and he's a red flag because of that. And these are the same chicks that don't think that women that have children outside of wedlock and multiple baby daddies are also a red flag. These are the same women that don't think that it's a red flag. Like, they're walking red flags. This is what I was talking about with women aren't gonna beat any of these allegations. Everything that women said that they weren't, they came to prove to the world that they were. You've come to prove to the world that you are immature, that you can't think past your emotions, that you can't, it stops, like the buck stops at whatever you feel at first. And then there's no work through the emotion. I've said it a million times. Men and women work the opposite way. In order to get to a point of self-reflection and to get to a point of self-improvement and things of that nature, men work through their logic first, and then they work through the emotional part of that, right? They don't have as wide of an emotional scope as women do. They don't have it. They have a larger scope of logic, so it takes longer. And that's why they work through it first, because that's the first thing that occurs to them. So whenever they are going through something, their initial responses are not necessarily emotional. They're more logic based. They try to go into their logic in order to deal with whatever it is that they're dealing with. And then as they deal through it and as they get to the solutions of it, then they allow whatever they felt about that situation to be absorbed. Women work the entire opposite way. We work through the emotion first because we have a larger scope for that than our logic. So the emotion has to come first, because the first thing that we're going to do, and it doesn't matter what kind of woman it is or who she is, the first thing we're going to do is have an emotional response to something, right? We're going to have an emotional response. And what that looks like depends on the woman. It depends on whether she's mature or not. It depends on whether or not she knows how to manage her emotions or how to work through those emotions, right? Or how to regulate herself. Most women don't know how to do that. And so before I get to that thought, women work through the emotion first. And then once we process that part, then we can process the logical part and get to a place of resolution and get to a place, you know what I'm saying, where we can move forward. The problem is that the state of women now, mostly for the majority, and it's sad, and I hate that for women. I hate it. I hate that for us, because most women do not know how to regulate their own emotions properly. It's not that we shouldn't have them. It's not that we shouldn't go through the emotional space, because that's female nature. There's no way we can bypass it, right? Women can't bypass their own emotional, because that's how we work through things. That's how we think of things. We can't do it another way. We literally can't do it another way. There's no way to switch that off at all. However, even though we can't switch that off, the behavior that ensues behind it is what can make or break a situation. And too many women, the majority of women, and it's a big majority, it's not even a small, it's a big majority of women, because they cannot self-regulate, they cannot regulate their own emotions, they don't know how to work through the emotional set to get to the logical space that's going to allow the self-improvement, that's going to allow the reflection, that's going to allow the correction, that's going to allow, they get stuck at the emotional point. They get stuck at the trigger point. That's the problem. Too many women get stuck at the trigger point. She didn't hear anything he said. She didn't hear that. She didn't hear that she's a liability. What she heard was him attack her and tell her that she's not worth much. And you know what? He did say that. He is saying that you're not worth much. But why is he saying that? What makes her not worth much? What makes that a true statement? He's saying a liability. Liabilities, by definition, are not worth much. It's something that you actually need to avoid as much as possible. That's what a liability actually is. So he is saying that. And she's being triggered by it because it's jarring to hear somebody tell you that you're not worth nothing. But the whole thing about it is she's not absorbing why it's being said. And she's not going to absorb it because she's too busy being stuck at the trigger point to where she's hearing an attack. So she's hearing him say she's immature and, well, I'm not immature, while at the same time being immature to combat the fact that she's being immature. Do you understand what I'm saying? Everything that women try to not be, you're that thing. And it's crazy work. It's actually crazy work. Women try so hard to be somebodies that you're nobodies. And I hate that. I hate that for women. I hate that for us. because you try so hard to go out into this world and be somebody important, only to realize you're not important. You're not. You're not. And everything that you thought made you unimportant are the very things that give you any kind of value at all. Women have yet to realize that the way that we were set up only works. It only is valuable one way. We can't switch it up and make other stuff valuable. It just doesn't work that way. Women try to make themselves valuable in the same way men are valuable, for the same reason that men are valuable. And we can't do it because we can't do what men do, particularly to the same level. Even if we can dabble in it, even if we can do a little bit, we can't do it to that level. And with that level of consistency, it's just not possible. And so we see readily the overall value of men and what men do and how men operate. We can see the value in that. We can see the good that can be, right? And I mean, men have their dark side too, but for the most part, when anybody looks at men, we look at the good that they can do, right? But the sad part about it is when we think of women, you name for me 2 redeeming qualities that women have. Name 2. Name 2. Name 2 redeeming qualities that women naturally have. I dare you. And the problem is that women have spent so much time being the opposite of any good that they could be, in the pursuit of trying to show that they can do this and that. All that they've done is show just how worthless women can be. That's what they've done. They've shown it. They've shown just how worthless, annoying, and unlikable that women can actually be. It has done a complete disservice. Women in general have done a complete disservice to all of womanhood. That's why I said it's always going to be up and stuck with me, with feminism and that whole thing, because it took away women from the only things that actually make us valuable. There's only a handful of things that actually we do that can be valuable and or good. It's only a handful of them things. And feminism took them. Feminism said those things, the raising of children and the being in the home and being a wife and stuff like that. Feminism said that stuff was old-fashioned and crazy and only for the most desperate of women and only for stupid women. It was only for stupid women. It was only for unintelligent women that didn't understand the value of being a woman or didn't understand the complexities of womanhood and did not understand the true potential of being a woman. That's what it said. It said that those things, being the helpmate of man, was an unworthy capacity for women to feel. Little did women realize that's the only capacity that actually gives us any foothold anywhere, that makes us be looked at with any form of respect or any form of decency. The lack of that capacity completely ruined women. It ruined them. It ruined everything about them. It ruined everything. All of the, and what it did by taking that away, it brought forth all the negative sides of femininity, all of the negative side of female nature, all of it. So she's sitting here being the complete personification of everything he talking about, being a red flag, being a liability, not listening, not absorbing what's being said, being so stuck in the emotional part of it that even afterwards, even when he's not talking, even when she goes home, she's not even gonna absorb it then. She's not even gonna absorb it later, which that's the real problem. The real problem is when women never absorb it. You never work through the emotional part past the point that you triggered, past the point that you got upset, past the point that you felt attacked, past the point. You got to get past that point. Get past the point. You're gonna get to that point depending on what's going on. Sometimes, everything don't make you to the same level of upset, but at the same time, some things will be more triggering than others. But even at the most height of your triggeredness, you gotta be, the mature women get past the point. You gotta be able to work through that, because if you don't work through it and you can't work through it, that's the mark of your immaturity. And that's where the stunt growth come from. And that's where that impetulant women or children thought pattern come in at, because that's when you start proving it. It's crazy work. Women have thought that they have overcome something, and feminism has set women back 10,000 years. I swear it. I swear. They're dumber now than they've ever been. Women in general, obviously not every single person, but in general, the vast majority of the women, the way women think, they're dumber now than the women that they look down upon in the past. Dumb, because those women actually understood what got them at least a little bit of respect, at least a little bit of value. They understood what they needed to do to even get that little bit. Y'all don't even know that. Y'all still look down upon those things. Y'all look down upon those things. And y'all feel like because it's 2025 and the world has evolved to this point and that point, that all of a sudden a woman's value or what brings her value is supposed to change. And it never did. Y'all tried to change it, but it don't change. And then you try to make men respect the fact that you could go to work and get some money, but they don't respect that. They don't care. They don't care about none of that. It's very little that they care about any of that, because it don't really impact them that much. And it doesn't speak to your character either. And so many of you have decided to have such bad character. It's a trip. Jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your host of The Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.